Okay, so you want to learn about herbs,
Mm,
but not like chamomile tea is good for sleep.
right.
Like really dive deep into herbalism.
Yeah.
We're diving deep today into an episode from Rosalie de la Foret's podcast.
Oh, cool.
She's amazing, by the way.
She is.
And she breaks down like the best ways to learn about herbs.
Cool.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
It's not one size fits all.
It's true. And Rosalie isn't afraid to ask like the tough questions
Yeah.
right out of the gate. Like, do you actually need a fancy certificate to make herbal remedies for your friends?
Right.
Or is the most expensive course always the best?
Right.
Spoiler alert, not necessarily.
I love that she calls those assumptions out
Yeah,
because it's so easy to get caught up in like titles
totally.
and price tags and stuff.
For sure.
When you're first starting out, it's
Yeah.
like, ooh, shiny object
Yeah.
must be the best.
Right.
But she really emphasizes the importance of hands-on experience.
And that makes sense when you think about it. Yeah.
Herbalism is all about connecting with plants,
Mm-hmm.
right? So tasting, smelling, feeling the herbs.
Yeah.
It's not just memorizing facts from a book.
Right.
It's about developing a relationship with the plants themselves.
It reminds me of when I first started learning about cooking.
Okay.
I could read recipes all day long,
Uh-huh.
but until I actually got in the kitchen and started chopping veggies and experimenting with spices,
Yeah.
I didn't truly understand how flavors work together.
Right?
Rosalie actually links this hands-on approach to something called herbal energetics,
Okay.
which sounds kind of mystical,
Right.
but it's actually pretty cool.
It is. It's about understanding the inherent properties of a plant beyond just its chemical makeup.
Okay.
For instance, have you ever noticed how pungent herbs like ginger or cayenne
Yeah.
literally make your senses tingle?
Yeah.
They're warming and stimulating,
Interesting.
whereas bitter herbs like dandelion root,
Okay.
while not as immediately pleasant on the tongue,
Right.
are often used to support digestion.
They kind of wake up your digestive system
Yeah.
in much the same way they wake up your taste buds.
Oh, that's so cool.
Right.
It makes me want to like run to the spice rack
Yeah.
and start tasting everything.
I know.
Speaking of which,
Yeah.
Rosalie talks about how important it is to figure out your why
Mm-hmm.
before you dive headfirst into herbalism.
Yeah.
Like, what are you hoping to get out of it?
Exactly. It's like planning a trip.
Oh,
Are you looking for a relaxing beach vacation or an adventurous backpacking trip through the mountains?
right.
Knowing your why helps you pack the right gear, so to speak.
I love that analogy.
Right.
So if my why is making my own elderberry syrup for cold season,
Okay.
maybe I don't need to enroll in a 3-year herbalism program.
Right. Maybe a local workshop on identifying and working with local herbs is a better starting point.
Okay.
Or perhaps you're interested in incorporating herbal allies into your meditation practice.
Interesting.
That might lead you to explore Ayurvedic traditions, which have a beautiful history of working with herbs to support mental and spiritual well-being.
Oh, see, now you're speaking my language.
I thought you might like that.
And that actually touches on another important point she makes.
Yeah.
There are so many different paths within herbalism itself.
Absolutely. You could deep dive into the scientific side,
Okay.
analyzing chemical constituents and researching clinical trials.
Right.
Or you might be drawn to the rich history and folklore of traditional herbalism,
Okay.
exploring systems like traditional Chinese medicine,
Hmm.
which views the body and its healing process through a completely different lens.
It's almost like asking, do you want to learn Spanish or Mandarin?
Right.
They're both languages, but they'll take you on wildly different journeys.
Totally.
And then there's the whole question of focusing on local herbs versus exploring a global materia medica,
Right.
which, by the way, is just a fancy term for a compendium of medicinal plants.
It is.
It basically means...
It's like deciding to become an expert on the flora of your bioregion, maybe the Appalachian Mountains or the California coast, versus traveling the world studying the healing traditions of the Amazon rainforest or the Himalayas.
And Rosalie doesn't shy away from the fact that navigating all these options can feel overwhelming,
Oh, yeah.
especially when you factor in different learning styles.
Right. She really encourages listeners to think about how they learn best. Do you thrive in a structured classroom setting with deadlines and feedback?
Okay.
Or are you more of a self-directed learner who prefers to go at your own pace,
Right.
maybe curling up with a good herbal book?
I'm definitely more of a curl up with a good herbal book kind of learner,
Yeah.
but maybe that's because I haven't found an herbal learning environment that like lights me up yet.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Rosalie shares a bit about her online course, Rooted Medicine Circle, And it's interesting
Right.
because even though it's online,
Mm-hmm.
she's found a way to incorporate those live elements
Right.
and like create a sense of community.
Totally.
Yeah.
And let's be real, that can be a game changer. You know, when you're learning something new and you're maybe feeling a little intimidated,
Totally.
especially if you don't have like a lot of herbalists in your immediate circle.
Right, because not everyone can just like pop over to their grandma's house
Totally.
for advice on making a calendula salve.
Exactly.
Speaking of practicalities,
Yeah.
Rosalie does not shy away from the money talk.
It's true. She's very real about the fact that like
Yeah.
herbal education can cost a pretty penny.
Oh, yeah?
And I appreciate her honesty because like she really encourages listeners to be savvy consumers, you know?
Right.
It's not just about finding the cheapest option, but also understanding like
Okay.
what are you getting for your investment? Like,
Okay.
does that expensive online course offer personalized feedback?
Right.
Or is it just like a bunch of pre-recorded videos?
So anything else, you get what you pay for.
Exactly.
Although Rosalie also shares a story
Yeah.
about how she worked a study program to help pay for her herbal education.
Right.
So it shows that you don't necessarily need like a trust fund
You don't have to be independently wealthy.
to pursue this.
Right.
Yeah.
And thankfully, there are tons of free or low-cost resources out there, too.
That's true.
Libraries are a treasure trove of herbal knowledge.
Yes.
And a lot of botanical gardens offer workshops and plant walks.
Totally.
And don't forget about podcasts like ours.
Exactly. We're here for
We're
it.
trying to make it accessible.
Yes, we are. So once you've got that financial piece figured out,
Okay.
Rosalie talks about the importance of finding your herbal mentors,
Oh, this is so important.
which I think is so important
It's huge.
no matter what you're learning.
Absolutely. It's like having a seasoned guide on your like herbal adventure.
Totally.
And Rosalie emphasizes that. Like
Yeah.
finding the right mentors can make all the difference in your journey.
Totally.
And she has this great tip.
Okay.
She suggests checking out like recordings of herbalists you admire
Oh, that's a good idea.
to kind of get a feel for their teaching style.
Oh, yeah.
The American Herbalist Guild has a fantastic library of presentations from some of the biggest names in herbalism.
I'm putting that on my to-do list.
You should.
And for those who learn best by doing,
Yeah.
she also recommends seeking out local herbalists and teachers.
There's something so powerful about learning from someone
Right.
who knows the plants in your area like the back of their hand.
Yeah.
Like they can share insights about seasonal harvesting, regional variations in plant properties,
Yeah.
maybe even some local folklore.
It's like the difference between
Totally.
reading about the Amazon rainforest in a book
Right.
versus like actually going there
Exactly.
and experiencing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Speaking of experience,
Okay.
Rosalie gets really candid about this whole world of like herbal certifications and titles.
And this is where it gets tricky,
Yes. And this is where things can get tricky,
especially for beginners
especially for beginners.
who are just trying to figure it all out.
We're trying to navigate all the different options.
Yeah.
And like Rosalie points out,
Mm-hmm.
in the US at least,
Yeah.
you don't actually need a specific certification to practice herbalism professionally.
Interesting.
It's not like becoming a doctor or a lawyer where you need a license.
Yeah, even the term master herbalist,
Right.
which sounds super official,
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily guarantee a certain level of expertise.
Doesn't at all. It's more of a self-proclaimed title in a lot of cases.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
So Rosalie really encourages listeners to be discerning
Yes.
and not just blindly trust,
Uh-huh.
like flashy titles or fancy certificates.
Right. Do your research.
Yeah.
Check out the credentials of the people teaching the courses.
Uh-huh.
Maybe even reach out to past students to get their perspectives.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's about the quality of the education
It is.
and the depth of knowledge that you're gaining, not just about like having a piece of paper on the wall.
Totally.
Yeah.
Now, for those who are interested in the clinical side of herbalism,
Okay.
working directly with clients
Yeah.
to address specific health concerns,
Mm-hmm.
Rosalie has some additional advice.
Oh,
She's a firm believer in the importance of a solid foundation
yeah.
in anatomy physiology
Okay.
and even pathophysiology,
Which basically means...
which means understanding how diseases develop.
Okay, got it.
Right. Because it's one thing to know that chamomile tea can be calming,
Right.
but it's another thing entirely to understand how those calming properties
Totally.
might interact with someone's existing health conditions or medications.
That makes sense.
Right? You want to be able to work with people safely and effectively,
Yeah.
and that requires a deeper understanding of the human body and how herbs can both support
Totally.
and potentially interfere with its very delicate balance.
Right. And on that note, she also stresses the importance of,
Totally.
yeah,
And seeking out a clinical mentor, especially when you're first starting out.
yeah,
Having someone experienced to guide you,
yeah.
answer your questions, provide feedback on your cases can be invaluable.
It's like having a more seasoned herbalist, like looking over your shoulder
Exactly.
and just like helping you avoid those pitfalls
Totally.
and build your confidence.
And she really emphasizes that a good mentor will not only share their knowledge,
Yeah.
but also encourage you to develop your own critical thinking skills
Yeah, right.
and intuition.
Because at the end of the day, every client is different.
Absolutely. Everybody is unique.
Mm-hmm. And there's no one-size-fits-all approach to this.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach to herbalism.
Yeah.
Speaking of finding what works,
Yeah.
Rosalie's a big proponent of lifelong learning.
Yes.
And she shares some of her favorite herbal books in this episode.
And thankfully, she has a whole section on her website
I
dedicated to book recommendations
love that.
organized by topic,
It's so helpful.
which we will link to in the show notes.
Yes, please do.
And I love that she breaks down her recommendations
Mm-hmm.
based on different interests and learning styles.
Yes.
So for those just starting out,
Yeah.
she recommends Rosemary Gladstar's Medicinal Herbs,
Oh, it's like the herbalist's Bible.
which is a classic for a reason.
It's a classic for a reason.
And of course, no herbal book list would be complete
Right.
without a mention of Rosalie's own book, Alchemy of Herbs,
Yes.
which we talked about earlier.
Her exploration of taste and herbal energetics is just,
I know.
it's such a valuable tool for anyone wanting to deepen their understanding
Totally.
of how herbs work on the body.
And for those who are drawn to a more holistic approach,
Okay.
so integrating herbal wisdom
Yes.
with other modalities,
Mm-hmm.
she recommends Maria Noel Gross's Body into Balance.
Oh, Body in Balance is so good.
Yeah.
Gross does a beautiful job of weaving together herbal remedies with lifestyle changes, nutritional advice,
Right.
emotional well-being practices.
It's such a great reminder that herbalism isn't just about like memorizing plant properties and stuff.
Totally.
It's about understanding
Yeah.
the interconnectedness of our
Yes.
physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being.
Exactly. And speaking of interconnectedness,
Yeah.
Rosalie also gives a shout out to Samuel Thayer.
Okay.
For those who are interested in wildcrafting and foraging their own herbs,
Thayer's books are incredible resources for that.
the best.
If you want to learn how to like
Yeah.
identify, harvest, and prepare herbs from your local ecosystem,
Mm-hmm.
I actually have his book, Forager's Harvest, on my bedside table right now.
Oh, cool.
It's amazing how he weaves together botanical knowledge with stories about like his own experiences foraging for wild foods and medicines.
Right. He really emphasizes the importance of ethical harvesting practices
Yes.
and cultivating like a deep respect for the plants and the land.
And for anyone who loves beautiful photography
Oh, yeah.
and delicious recipes,
Mm-hmm.
Rosalie also recommends her book, Wild Remedies,
I was just thinking about that one.
which she co-authored with Emily Hahn.
It's gorgeous.
It's a gorgeous exploration of using wild plants for food and medicine.
It is.
Okay, so we
Yeah.
covered a lot, but
Yeah.
Rosalie's main message, I think, is clear.
It is.
Learning about herbs should be joyful.
Yes.
It shouldn't feel overwhelming or intimidating.
No way.
I love that she even talks about
Uh-huh.
how she used to tape index cards
What?
with like herbal actions written on them
Oh, yeah.
to her bathroom mirror,
That's great.
so she could learn a little something every time she brushed her teeth.
I love that.
It's such a good example of how we can like
Totally.
weave herbalism into our everyday lives. It doesn't have to
Mhm.
be this like big formal thing.
Right. It can be as simple as
Yeah,
taking a moment to appreciate the chamomile tea you're sipping,
totally.
or noticing the plantain growing through a crack in the sidewalk,
It's about cultivating that sense of curiosity
Yeah.
and wonder.
and realizing that we all have the potential to connect with the healing power of herbs
Totally.
in a way that feels authentic and empowering.
So as we wrap up our deep dive today,
Yes.
what's one small step that you can take today
I love that question.
to deepen your own herbal journey?
Maybe it's finally trying that nettle infusion recipe you've been eyeing,
Ooh, that's a good one.
or seeking out a local herbalist in your community.
The most important thing is to just follow your curiosity
Yes.
and have fun exploring the incredible world of plants.
I love it.